There we go. Now it says live. The first time it didn't work. Okay. So first we discussed the questions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what do you think of Osher's process for identifying opportunities and building companies?
I think it sounded like all the other ways people process and identify opportunities. I mean, I guess he was a little, I'm trying to think of like a good word here. He seemed to jump around a lot.
He did.
But I feel like his ability to like grab stuff and be flexible allowed him to create really great products, meaning like he wasn't so stuck in one particular focus that he could, he could move from thing to thing and kind of ride out the really positive and lucrative ideas. So.
Well, and I think one reason he was able to get those lucrative ideas, I actually kind of attribute that to his degree in psychology, because he would go and talk to people, find out what they wanted, and then go from there.
Yeah, I think he was great at like understanding the market as well as the feedback. Like, what were people's issues? What were they not getting? What is it that they wanted that they weren't getting? And he was really good at sort of ferreting out those ideas. And then the good ones, the ones that fit in with the other things that he already knew, that's when he was like, oh, we can take that one to the next level, or we can combine these two things. So yeah, I think that you're right. The degree in psychology as well as just, he's clearly a people person too. Anybody who can go from being like a carpenter to a sales guy to an inventor, I mean, obviously he gets people too.
Yeah. And one thing that amazed me about him was that he started out young. He had his own, like he started a small business at 8. And then at 19, he was able to, he got a teen award for like best entrepreneur or something. I don't remember what it was. But
he started that earring company in Cincinnati or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he sold
sorry.
You're fine.
So I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, so I think that this is a kid who like recognized the possibilities at a very young age, right? Whereas the rest of us are like, oh, I didn't figure out who I was until I was 30, so that's awesome.
Good for him.
You're like, oh, well, that's right. I can still move forward from here. But yeah, so I think that his understanding of humans and feeling and desire to fill their needs, I think has helped him definitely build the companies that he has built.
I agree. Is there anything else you want to add on that one?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So this next question was very similar. We kind of already discussed it. Who is John Osher and how did he come up with his ideas?
So obviously John is a guy who notices when needs aren't being filled and then takes the time and energy to understand those needs and then fill them.
One thought I had about him as I was reading the case is I wonder if he got his idea for the toothbrush from the spinning lollipop.
Oh, I think he did. Or at least
yeah, it's
like the technology to make the spin brush was definitely based on the spin pop. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that if he hadn't done the candy, I don't think he would have been able to do the toothbrush.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was interesting about him.
Yeah, yeah. I put down that he's really restless, right? He moves all over the place. He doesn't stay in one job, position, idea for very long. And I think that has to factor into the end decision here, is that even if John Osher could run a successful business, I don't think that he would want to. I think he likes sort of the fast and loose movement of having something new going on every 3 years.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what he's done, is every time he thought like, oh, like with the candy toy company, like at some point, right when it could get bigger, he decided to sell it. Hasbro, I guess. and move on to something else, right? So I don't think that as a person, I think that he likes the challenges of new things, not the challenge of longevity.
Well, and didn't it say in the case that, was it when he was working at Conserve? I mean, he was there for 8 years, but I think it said he got bored. That might be a
Yeah.
different job, but he was like, I was done. I was ready to move on.
Yeah.
But that one he was at longer, and he was able to grow that company, and it had great success. So
Right. Well, did he sell Conserve or did he keep that one and just license it? I can't remember.
I can't remember. I thought he sold it, but
Yeah, I think he's sold all of them at this point.
yeah.
Okay.
So, is the spin brush a good idea? How does John evaluate opportunities?
Well, I think that the case study sort of, provided some concrete data about whether or not the spin brush was a good idea. I think at least right now, it's clearly a fad. I don't know if it has longevity, but I mean, they're selling 33, like if they stick with the 6,000 a day, right? That they're selling all over, that's 33,000 total for the year. That's a lot. So I think obviously that's showing that, and that's 12, and then in retailer, it's the sales figure is about 12 million. And
Yeah.
so, from my perspective, that sounds like it's a good idea. I think the money kind of backed that one up. But at the same time, I think that he found a really good market,
One thing I thought about it is, I wonder what his profit margin was. Did it say that and I missed it?
Mm-mm. No,
Because
it just told us like how much he wanted to sell them for. It never gave us a cost of goods sold.
Yeah, and that just seems like, I mean, if we knew that number, it would be easier to know if it was a good idea or not.
So I think that like if you compare the lollipop, that would be sold for $250, assuming with a profit margin built into the lollipop. I don't think we ever found out the profit margin of the lollipop, but if it's similar technology to the lollipop, even if it costs $3 to make, that's still a 50% profit margin. So I'm assuming, right? Is that so? Like, based on the lollipop, if they could sell a contemporary product for that much, although the lollipop isn't supposed to last longer than I've never bought a spinning lollipop, but
me either.
But I'm assuming a kid eats it within a specific amount of time, and anyhow, so that was just kind of my thing. Like, okay, they could sell that for $250. So if it's similar technology and similar parts, then hopefully the spin brush is somewhere in there as well, in that profit margin or in that same cost of goods sold margin. So I don't know. That's a good question. You're right. That's the one thing that they didn't really tell us how much they were making. Because again, the 12 million in retail sounds fantastic until you find out that they have a 90% cost of goods sold, and then you're like, can that company run on $1 million? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Which is why maybe licensing or selling it would be the better option here. I don't know. Well, I do know. I have an idea. Anyhow.
I have a guess too, but we're probably different from the way it sounds, so that's okay.
Maybe. I mean, I guess John, when he comes up with his ideas, I don't think he has like a flash of brilliance. I think he just talks to people, like you said, like he's just interacting with others, and then I don't know, I could see him sitting at dinner table being like, wow, that was a really expensive toothbrush, as his sister's telling him, I just bought these great toothbrushes, they were $75 each. He's thinking, what? Sticker shock.
Yeah, maybe I can make one cheaper.
Yeah, why can't you make one cheaper? What is the roadblock here? Do they have ones that are cheaper? Then he goes to the grocery store and finds out, no, they really don't. So anyhow, I guess he just follows up with interesting information.
Yeah. Okay. So why haven't larger companies already done a spin brush? My thought on that one was that they already have the fancier, expensive ones, and they're wanting people to buy more of those, so they don't want to take away from their own market. But that's just a guess.
Well, and like the fancy ones, you have to replace the head, what did it say, every 3 or 4 months? And so even though the purchase of the toothbrush is a sunk cost, the purchasing of the refill heads, that's their bread and butter. Like that's where they're making money. And so, and I'm assuming that those are almost 100% revenue with a small cost of goods sold. Whereas quite possibly the spin brush has a higher cost of goods sold, so it has a lower profit margin. I don't know. That, and I think that the larger companies, I think sometimes you get stuck in a particular like box, right? So like mechanical toothbrushes, you have to be in this box. And I don't think they could get themselves out of that box either.
Oh, that's a good thought, yeah.
Right? I mean, sometimes we just do that. Like, and John was like, that's a dumb box. That, you know, he made a whole new box, right? With the $5 or $6, and it had to, part of it had to move, part of it didn't have to move, the packaging, you know, like he kind of came in with like a whole new box, and then they kept trying to problem solve it to fit inside that box. So anyhow,
Yeah.
and then I don't know, didn't really go into why other companies, well, and one of the companies had tried for several years and had still been unsuccessful.
Was that Crest?
I think it was Procter and
I don't
Gamble.
remember. Oh, okay.
No, and that's Crest.
That's Crest, okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Why were they unsuccessful though? I didn't understand that.
I don't think it really said, it just said they hadn't, hold on, maybe, where is, oh, here it is. Okay, let me see if I can find just the discussion. My computer's telling me, you're doing too much on this computer.
Mine tells me that all the time.
Oh, you're asking too much. Because it did say the one, but there was like a couple sentences there. All right, here, let's go back. Oh, there it is, Dr. John's case. Oh.
I'm not seeing it.
It's in there, I swear.
I believe you. I'm just not. I'm blind.
Yeah, so if you said that Procter & Gamble was the only major brand that didn't have an electric toothbrush, which is why they had chosen to maybe work with them.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought it was some, oh, the toothbrush industry. That's probably where it's at.
Yeah.
All right, maybe it's not. Maybe I made that up.
I don't know. I just don't remember seeing that, but it probably was there and I missed it.
It says, management at the Crest division of Procter & Gamble had been working on an inexpensive electric toothbrush for years, but no product had seen the light of day. Also, Osher believed his patents on elements of the design and packaging would provide some measure of protection. There it is.
Okay. What page is that on?
That is in the conclusion, in the decision
Okay.
time on page 7.
Okay, I just missed it. All right.
I did notice that with the toothbrush industry, that like depending on how specific you got on the data, different toothbrush companies were in the top. So like for the manual toothbrush, it's, you know, Gillette's the, you know, top dog. But in just the toothpaste, like who sells the most toothpaste, that's Colgate. How there isn't like one company, and then the power toothbrush is Gillette. Like there isn't one company that is, there isn't one brand that takes the cake on everything.
Yeah, that is odd.
So, and so in Procter and Gamble, I don't even think Crest was at the top of any of those. Hold on. What did I just say?
I know.
Is it Colgate, Gillette, and
Gillette.
Oh, I guess totally. And then, so like for Procter and Gamble's position, this might be a really great idea in that there's only, one low income's not the right word.
Low market share.
Yeah, or no, low price product. So like of the power toothbrushes, that would allow Procter and Gamble to sort of be at the top of one of those and steal a lot of market share from someone else. So, anyhow, I guess we probably exhausted that particular.
Yeah. Okay, so how much is Spin Brush worth? I hate questions like this. And how did you place value on the company?
So again, like you get the 6,000 units per day, and the Walmart price was like $5, but then like the Target price was $6. So I just used $5.50 to calculate.
Okay.
It's the sales value, and then if you go all the way down, and again, we don't know profit margin, right? Which you said earlier. But if you go on the annual, on Exhibit 5A, right? So obviously we're still small potatoes with 12 million, because like Colgate, it's 9,000 million, right? And Gillette's 9,000 million.
Yeah.
Right. So like those are clearly ridiculously high in comparison to our cute little like
10,000 or whatever. 10 million.
That's right. And I'm terrible at ratios, and I know that there's a ratio I'm supposed to be using here. I'm not the best on the ratios.
I could not find one either. So,
I'm like, because those are really the only three numbers I have, right? Is total sales, and then cost of goods, or just the regular price, and then how many are sold. And so, I mean. But then when you compared, like, so let's say the company has a retail of 12 million, right? And usually when in one of our other classes, we calculated how much would you sell that company for. So if it makes $12 million a year, and let's say you want to own it for 10 years, how much is the profit? Let's say, so 12 million in sales, but we get 6 million of that in profit, right?
okay.
And then 1 million of that goes to operating costs. So like the company makes $5 million a year. So in 10 years, that company will have made $50 million. Are you following my line here?
I am.
Okay. So then if you're going to sell a company that will make $50 million over the course of a decade, what would you sell it for in order to get a good sell for you, but a good sell for them? And I think it was like you would sell it for like $6 million. And then that company would make an additional 4 million, but then you would also get compensated for not owning it anymore at 6 million. And I think it said in here, what did he sell Conserve for?
Oh.
Yeah, see, and sales grew to 10 million by 1983, right? And so we have comparable sales revenue, right? If we're making 12 million and Conserve is making 10 million. So, and this is, he sold the company for mid 7 figures to Gerber. So what would be a mid 7 figures, like 50 million?
Yeah.
So that would be more like 9 million. So he sold that company for 9 million, like, $7 million. So he was making 10 million in retail. So like its sales revenue was 10 million. So again, like we're assuming 50% was cost of goods sold plus 10 to 20% is operating costs. And so kind of the same thing. So that would be my like, my weird way of saying, I think it's worth like $6 million.
See, and I like your answer a lot better than mine because mine was a little bit crazy. I went into Excel and did a future value,
Okay.
and I didn't take into consideration that it was not profit. I took the revenue and did a future value figure for 15 years.
Uh-huh.
And I used 6.5% growth because on Exhibit 4,
Uh-huh.
that's kind of what it was. I mean, the year before, sorry, my birds are going nuts.
That's all right.
The year before, it was at about 12.1 or something. I don't have it in front of me. And then
I see where you got the 6.4.
yeah, so I used that as my growth, and I got the value of the company as something much larger, which now that I think about it, I figured it very wrong. But I got the value of the company in 15 years as about 28,000. And so I was thinking
million?
or 28 million. I'm sorry, 28 million.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought he should kind of keep growing it and increase that even more. So
Okay.
anyway, so mine was crazy. I did it on Excel, but I don't know if I did it correctly. So
Yeah, well, I get it because that's why I didn't go to Excel. I'm like, I shall use Logic instead because Excel, then you're like really confident. You're like, Excel said, and it never tells you that I probably typed in the wrong numbers because that's how it goes. Okay.
That's usually my story.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that was a human error. Okay.
All right.
So that's
so
what. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
What do you think John should do?
I said he should grow it because he's only been in there for a quarter, like 1 quarter, 3-4 months. So I think he should continue to grow it and increase the value, and then in like 2 or 3 years, reevaluate and see if he's ready to sell it at that point.
Okay. I think he should license it. I think that the idea of having, like right now, I think that the 6,000 a day is pretty good. Though if you look at, how many toothbrushes they sell, hold on, it told us total 6,000 isn't, like that's nothing, right? It's itty bitty. And in order for him to really kind of take more market share, he's definitely going to have to market. And of course, this is in the late 80s, early 90s, right? So there's no free social media. Everything is old-fashioned marketing through or coupons and programs and television commercials. And so I think that if he can, work with Procter & Gamble, which is the company that from a gross domestic product version, the Procter & Gamble is the largest of the 4 major companies, right? They have the most resources. And so, I think that finding a way to work with Procter & Gamble to get this product into everyone's home instead of because he was getting 6,000 a day. And I think he said he was in, hold on. How many markets was he in?
I know.
Here, go back up. I should have written that one down. Yeah, this is so 2000. There would be a little social media. I don't think Facebook was around or anything, but the internet was obviously around in 2000. So he would have some online. None of the free channels were up. At this point, you're still paying for an email account. So, yeah, I just based on the numbers and of how much more he would have to do to grow it, I think that partnering with Procter & Gamble sounds like a really good way for him to, especially because he likes to outsource stuff, right? So it talked about how like in all of his businesses, he always wanted to have like the smallest amount of personnel possible, right? So he only had 9 employees, and 9 employees were overseeing and manufacturing 33,000 goods, plus doing all the R&D as well. And so I feel like for him, if he can off put as much as possible onto someone else, that sounds like something he would do. So that's why I chose the leasing, just between, you know, the amount of marketing that he's going to have to do now.
The reason I went against that, because I debated between those two quite a bit. But one of his goals was to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back and forth if it was simpler to license to somebody or simpler to just do it yourself. And to me, I thought licensing might be a little more complicated because you're having to do. Procter and Gamble is a big company, and I don't know what kind of rules and regulations they have, but I'm sure it adds stress, and it might not be as simple anymore.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about, though, is that when he gets restless and he wants to move on, he already has a company he can sell it to lined up, right? Or a company be like, look, you've licensed this, you've taken this baby off of my shoulders, right? I hold a patent, so I'm going to make all the, you know, major money, right? Like, he makes all the money with less effort once he gets through the licensing agreement. And so then if he wants to devote time to something else, he can shift that burden over to Procter and Gamble, and he can just ride the licensing agreement out. Does that make sense?
That's true. That does make it pretty simple. I just was thinking about the initial setup, I guess. I didn't think about after the fact.
Yeah, well, and I think that setting up a license agreement, it sounds like a headache and a lot of paperwork. I mean, maybe not. I've never done it. So
yeah, I would assume so, but I don't know.
It just sounds like, and you're right, Procter and Gamble is definitely one of those companies who likes to get their way, but John's the one with all the patents, and so he's got the leverage to get what he wants as well. So, in my head, I just kept thinking, like, if in 3 years he was like, I'd like to now develop a lawnmower that sprays weed control, I don't know, whatever, he can be like, sweet, I am not so invested in the spin brush so much. Procter and Gamble is taking it and it's doing it. I can move on when on his timetable and not like on the product's timetable, I guess, is where I was going. So
yeah, and that is definitely something that he has a history of. So
yeah,
it's probably something he would like to do is just move on.
Right, and the case study didn't feel like ever indicated that he was like, I think it's time to settle down. I think I'd like to be a CEO of a mid-level company for another 40 years. Like, I never got that at all from the case study.
No.
You know?
I think Conserve was the place that he stayed the longest, and it was like 8 years.
Yeah. Well, and Conserve, like, he kept like changing their market too, right? So at the beginning, Conserve was all about energy conservation, right? And then he was like, oh, look, the energy prices have gone down. I know, I'll start a portable play space, right? How do you go from energy conservation to children's play spaces?
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's where he went, right? So like even within the company he was with for 8 years, he kind of like jumped from market to market. So
yeah, little ADD, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Anyhow, number 7 says, how do you analyze a case? Watch those videos that.
Yes.
Or maybe not, I don't know.
I don't know. I actually had never thought to read the first and the last section first.
I hadn't either.
It made it so much easier.
Yeah.
I thought. Yeah. I mean, I still struggled with it because case studies are not my favorite thing.
No.
But it did make it easier to understand once I knew what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. So that was a very helpful step that I had never done before.
Yeah, I read a lot of cases. I mean, like there's that one class where every week was 2 or whatever, ridiculous amount of case studies. And at the end you didn't care anymore. But I had never thought to do the same tip as well as I knew that there were numbers in all the case studies, but it never occurred to me to make calculations on them.
Nope.
I'm like, oh, that would have been good to know in my last class.
Yep.
I probably would have done better on those write-ups had I included some equations. Why?
What class was that?
I want to say it was like organizational. It's the one that had like the crew team case and the girl who works for a company that's German-based, but she's a terrible boss. Did you do any?
I don't know if I took that one.
I think it's organizational effectiveness. I can't anyhow. And you had to meet as a group, and they had to like write up a 3-page paper for every case study.
Yep. Maybe I did take that one and I'm just not remembering the case, but yeah, it was
The cruel one
nasty.
you'd remember because like they would tell you what the solution was afterwards, and the crew members of the Army team, they ended up having a fist fight and that fixed it.
Yes, I do remember that.
You were like,
yep.
What? I'm pretty sure I can't do that at church or at my job. You know what? Just get a fist fight. That will help.
It'll solve everything.
I'll solve it. Anyhow, so.
Yeah. How long did your write-up end up on this one?
I haven't finished it yet.
Okay.
Was it? I hope it wasn't due yesterday. If it was,
I'm not sure if it was. I think it's due Saturday.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure I've turned everything in on time. I haven't written it up yet. So anyhow, that's how I analyze a case. Is I follow the information that guy gave us, whose name I can't remember, because it was good. And
yes, it was very helpful. So
write what question you learned to ask as an entrepreneur.
Oh, I had several questions. Where am I at? I really thought what made him successful. Like I focused on that. What made him create this project? And I think a lot of that had to do with his background in psychology and like understanding people. And actually getting out there and asking them what they want and then creating something for that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I think that like from an entrepreneurial standpoint, one of the things that I thought John must have done really well is that, you know, when he heard somebody complain or say, I only wish that there was a way for me to get my kids to bed, you know, before 8:30 or whatever, you know, he would then take that to the next level. Like, well, what do you think, you know, like, what do you think is going on with you that, you know, prevents your kids from going to bed? Or what do you think is going on with your kids? Like he asked like the next question. He didn't just say like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? And move on.
Yeah.
Like I think he really thought about how do I bring that into like a physical space.
Yeah, I agree.
So anyhow, all right. So then we're supposed to do a summary, right?
Yes.
Hold on, where am I? That's all I want. Pre-discussion poll, discussion instructions. All right, so then you need to provide timestamp in addition to your link so the instructor will know when the summary begins. Okay, so.
I don't see a time on this, so I think we'll have to watch it and fast forward and just get the time. Does that make sense?
How about we know the time is now because I crossed my arms. So when you watch it in fast, you know, like there, it's the summary begins when Rebecca does weird things with her hands. Okay.
Sounds perfect.
Okay. So what are our votes, final decisions, and thoughts?
I still think he should keep building his project and then, or his product, and then reconsider selling it maybe even a year from now, just to see if it's just a fad or if it's gonna stick.
Okay. I think that he should continue developing the product. It sounds like there's some more things that need to be worked out. And since he's already started the communications with Procter & Gamble, I think he should, you know, figure out where that's going to go. But I don't think that he should start dating all the other companies either. I think he should be exclusive with Procter & Gamble if that's what they want. I don't know how else to say that. And then, like you said, like maybe in a year at that point, he should license or sell it, because I think he's definitely going to want to move on in like 2 years. Like he's going to find something else he wants to fix, because at this point, like I think he's fixed this problem and now he just has to make it stay. He's got to get it to stick. And so once he gets to the sticking point, then I think he's going to move on. So definitely I think for him, it's like a 3-year plan and not like a 15-year plan.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think too. I don't see him staying because he just flitters so much. So
yeah, he he's just got to move on. He's got things to do. So anyhow, that is our summary. Professor, teacher, person.
Sounds good.
Excellent. I think
All right. Is that all we needed?
that's all it says.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
all
I'm
right.
going to stop the broadcast.